Insights with Mark Haan.
Welcome to Inebriated Insights, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Haan. Joining me, as always, producer Dave Stratton, along with Jett Kaufman and Kevin Ocampo. How's it going, guys?
Oh, let's switch it over to gallery view because you're talking to all of us. It's going well. I've got two of the worst people on the planet. Well, a couple of the worst people on the planet, right?
We're right here.
I know.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we can hear you, man.
Sorry, Kevin and Jett. No, it's yeah. Go ahead. Did you introduce Jett and Kevin there, Mark?
Sure did.
Okay, I was too busy doing producing stuff. But yeah, no, these dickheads right here. I'm gonna change this soon because I already feel uncomfortable. I'm gonna get groped or freaking.
It's an uncomfortable background to look at.
It's awful. Especially this dickhead. God damn it. Anyways, Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm surviving.
Yeah.
That's the bar, right? That's
Yeah.
the high bar for anyone. You're surviving. You're winning.
That's right. We've seen you in some commercials. I can't say which one. You're always in the background as the dad. I think it's the mustache. I think you could get cast because of that mustache right there.
I think so too, because I would rather not have the mustache.
Oh, really? So you just don't like it? You're just like, you know what? I'm getting cast a lot with this thing,
Yeah.
so
It gets me in the room.
nice. That is nice. So, Jett, it's been a while. You haven't been on the show for a while.
I've missed a few.
Yeah.
Life just gets in the way. I've got family. I've got a podcast that I'm producing the hell out of.
Do you want to plug it? I know you're just
yeah.
itching to plug it.
Hell yeah, especially because just today we released an amazing episode. It's called the Super Legit Podcast. You can find us on everything. And today we released a very special 2-hour long episode.
Wow.
Just happened to be released on April 1st. I wonder what that's about. But it's the best episode we've ever done, and it took me an insane amount of work because I'm the editor of the show.
Wow. Well, now you got to
It's
plug.
great.
Now you got to plug our show on your show.
Yeah.
There you
Yes.
go.
Everybody, check out Super Legit Podcast. And without further ado, let's.
Hey, wait. What's our drinking word for the night?
Oh, good call. Our drinking words for the night are Biden and taxes.
Biden and taxes. I'm going to switch over the
taxes.
view here, and then we're going to go ahead and drink. So,
Is that a free one, or do we drink for that?
Well, we're drinking now anyway.
oh god.
Yeah. This week, the New York Times revealed that Matt Gaetz, suspiciously the only member of Congress to vote against an anti-human trafficking bill, is under investigation for trafficking a 17-year-old girl across state lines in order to have sex with her. Gaetz responded by tweeting out a convoluted story of legal intrigue involving an extortion attempt against him, and later went on Tucker Carlson's show in which he brought up a 2-decade-old sexual allegation against Tucker, and strangely seemed to draw him into his legal troubles by flippantly referencing a dinner Tucker and his wife had with Gaetz and a quote-unquote friend 2 years ago. Tucker called it one of the strangest interviews he's ever done. I would agree. Dave, what do you make of Gaetzgate?
Well, I mean, when Tucker calls you out, this asshole calls you out for being weird. It's just Gaetz is a huge Trump fan and a fellow narcissist to Trump, and he just basically the whole one of the methods of narcissism is to, when you do something wrong, quick go blame somebody else for the exact same thing. And I really feel that Trump and Epstein and this asshole and that other dude who's under DOJ investigation in Florida, was it Bloom? Green?
That was Greenberg.
Greenberg, sorry. Greenberg. Like, they all... I would bet a lot of money that they are all involved with, in some level, some type of sexual trafficking, child sex trafficking, something along those lines. And I mean, look at this guy. I mean, this asshole right here. You know, with this fucking hair, that he just constantly hits on women and is a fucking sleazebag and is like, hey, I'm a representative, come over to my house. And he probably has a lot of sex, and when the girls get in his bedroom, he pull down his pants and he's got a little dick. Because, I mean, look at this asshole. You know that guy has a little teeny dick. Am I right, Jett? You've seen a lot of guys with dicks, right?
I'm on the internet, so yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to avoid, and it seems statistically likely.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, and he's probably doesn't please any of the women he sleeps with, and they're probably close to underage, and there's no doubt in my mind this prick fucking took a girl, and then all sex trafficking is, it's not like you're smuggling women into crates and then who are underage and then putting them into brothels. What it is if there's a woman, if there's a girl who's like 17, and in your state the age of consent is 18, but then you want to go to a state where the age of consent is 17 or even younger, you then take that woman into that state, or that girl, let's call it's a girl, into that state so you can have sex with them. But if they don't willingly go, or if you pay any part of that, like you pay for the plane ticket, you pay for the hotel, that is called soliciting, and that's what this fucker did. And it doesn't matter how much he fucking denies it. You know this prick did it, and he should fucking resign. But guess what? No Republican's gonna step up and tell this dick to resign. They're like, well, let's just figure out what with all the let's put everything on the table here and figure it out. You know. Meanwhile, we have like Katie Hill, who had consensual sex with some of her staff members, and then every Democrat's like, nope, you go, and she's like, okay, I go. But anytime a fucking Republican decides to do something wrong, they cover it up and then they deny it, and then nobody is accountable for anything, and they don't do anything about it. Nobody leaves. So that's my thoughts on Gaetz.
We have more allegations. Well, not criminal allegations, but allegations that Gaetz regularly bragged about having sex with a lot of women.
He was showing pictures of naked girls to colleagues.
Videos. I'm just really curious to see where this story goes and how big of a story it becomes.
Well, once they get to the DOJ investigation, it's like they've got evidence, and it's not. He's all talking about how he's being, extortion. Oh, my dad was wearing it was all a setup. We were trying to nab some guy for the FBI and blah blah blah.
Also overcomplicated.
Yeah, and it's like. And then he specifically blamed somebody. It was like Davy McGee or something like that in Florida. What was that?
Yeah, a former DOJ.
Yeah, and he came out and was like, that is not at all true. And you know what they can do, if they are representing a female who is pressing charges against this prick, then they can settle outside of court. And so if that's part of what's going on right now, maybe he's saying, oh no, they're just trying to blackmail me for this and demand that I pay a lot of money so to cover this up. And it's like, well, actually, that's just called a settlement. If that's a lawyer and they're representing somebody, that's not fucking extortion, you stupid dumbass. So this piece of shit needs to get out of Congress. And you know what also really ticks me off is all these fucking QAnon people who for the last 2-3 years has just been like making up shit, pointing at Democratic people, just celebrities who've never done shit, and saying that they're child sex traffickers. And then finally, a real investigation's done and it finds out that these Republicans are the ones who are doing the real sex trafficking, and they're just like, no.
Well, that's normally how it works. I mean, pretty consistently how it seems to go down is whatever it is the Republicans are complaining loudest about is what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've seen this throughout the history of all of their gay panic, and then they're the ones getting caught in the men's room with some call boy or something like that. Like it's consistently this thing that whatever it is that they are angry about and shouting about is because they're covering up for their own insecurities over their own self-perceived failings.
Yeah, it's just narcissism
some legitimate,
101.
some not. But it's crazy and consistent that it goes down this way. You started this by referencing Gaetz Gate, which of course is what he specifically himself asked for his scandal to be called a week ago on Twitter.
He's such an idiot.
That's no joke. In a conversation with Elon Musk, Elon tweeted about how he wants there one day to be Elon. If there's ever a scandal, he wants it to be called Elon Gate. And Matt Gaetz replied to him and said, "Can I call Gaetz Gate now?" And that was on the 25th of March.
Wow.
Yeah, but everyone seemed to miss the joke. The joke was Elon Musk saying he wanted his scandal to be called Elongate.
Ah,
Thank you.
that's
It
good.
was a dick joke.
That is
Yep. No,
good.
you're absolutely right.
And it seemed to go over everyone's head. And he was just like, "Oh, I want to jump in on this. Call it Gaetz Gate."
Because I have a small dick. My name is
Right.
Well,
Because he couldn't
in
understand the joke.
Matt Gaetz' defense, when your forehead is that big, how can you have that big of a dick?
Hey.
It's like all the blood is going to his forehead.
Some of us have
That
big
doesn't-
foreheads, and we don't traffic women across.
Of course,
state lines.
It doesn't apply to you, Jett.
Thank you.
If you were a successful child actor with enough guest stars, you're exempt.
That's the rule.
Yeah.
It's
What's
the Jett Kaufman
really?
rule.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I just what's really worrisome about this for me is that he keeps harping on the fact that there is no woman. There is no underage woman, which makes me really feel like he's done something with the body.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no woman
not
Yeah.
anymore.
Like
But,
that's what it feels like. When
All
he
of his
keeps
wording's
saying
been so early on. The big thing was his wording was so specific about how he did not travel with a 17-year-old woman across state lines, and he can prove that. And it's like, well, that wasn't the allegation. The allegation was that you paid to have her shipped across state lines.
Yeah.
But you very specifically stated what you could definitely prove wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Like it's such consistent, ridiculous manipulation, but it's painfully obvious. And honestly, even if it's not true, and this is the important part, because of course this could absolutely turn out to be nothing, but it's always amazing to just watch the hypocrisy of the right as their entire moral high ground collapses and they're silent.
Yeah.
They're incredibly angry this week over Lil Nas X lap dancing with Satan, but their lips are sealed over their own guy, their own practically Trump's best friend when it came to the last few years or last year or so, doing exactly what they've been. They keep calling out Biden over supposedly being a pedophile. But their own Trump supporter is literally closer to that than he is.
It's like and I don't even want to listen to them because they pull out bullshit about Dr. Seuss and about Biden's dogs and about him tripping upstairs, but yet, I mean, like, fuck, god damn it. Every week with Trump in president was an impeachable offense, it seemed like. It was, every week it was a new scandal. And it's like the DOJ is going to have a long time to sift through all this shit. And there's like, we don't have enough time to try and prosecute him for all this stuff. We just have to pick the best things or the things that were the worst that he did. And then if any one of those things were to happen to any other president, like it would break their presidency. But he had something every fucking week, and now Republicans are just like, oh yeah, a dog bit a Secret Service person, and it was extremely minor injuries.
Well,
and
they're desperate to have theirs. They're desperate to have the thing that they can hold against, quote unquote, our president, which isn't even how I look at him. It's not. It's not the way our side works. So I don't have a sycophantic support of our president like that, but that's what they're desperate to do is, well, you spent 4 years nitpicking and complaining about and bitching about our president. So now we get our turn.
Yeah.
It's no, because yours had things.
egregious. They were egregious offenses. They weren't, it wasn't nitpicking. It was just like, there were so many of them.
Yeah. And there were real like offenses that if he wasn't president, he would be arrested for. That's a big fucking deal.
And it's not equivalent because we don't have flags on our front yards that with Biden's face on them.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move on.
All right, here we go. sorry. I liked your mug there. Is that Guinness there, Kevin?
No, it's a Negro Modelo, but I do have a
nice.
Guinness on standby for when I finish this.
Do like the
And
Negro
you will.
Modelo. Yes.
This week, President Biden unveiled his $2 trillion infrastructure plan. It's not a bill yet, just a framework, which includes money for transportation infrastructure, care for elderly and disabled Americans, improving drinking water infrastructure, expanding broadband access and updating energy grids, building and retrofitting affordable housing, and money for research, development, and job training. Biden plans to pay for his plan by raising the corporate tax rate to 28% and establishing measures meant to stop offshoring of profits. In response, Mitch McConnell said he plans to fight the bill with every ounce of his soul. Jett, during the Obama administration, Republicans played a game where they pretended it was possible to get some of them on board if Democrats milked down their proposals, strung Democrats along for weeks, and then voted against the measures anyway. People like Susan Collins and Chuck Grassley. Wouldn't it be more politically savvy for Republicans to pretend that they could get on board with popular legislation?
I don't think so anymore.
No?
I don't. This is a rare case where, and this is going to sound weird, where I agree with the Republicans, and let me be very clear about why.
Boo!
Their strategy right now, which I believe is the correct one for their voters, is they refuse to look weak enough to agree with Democrats. They have figured out that this Trump base, which they're desperate to cling to, whatever's left of it, that didn't just disappear when Trump disappeared, is so incredibly black and white, left or right, sycophantic belief in we have our beliefs, and if you ever agree with a Democrat, you are dead to us. And I think they're actually right that is true for the bulk of their platform. There's plenty. I know there are plenty of reasonable Republicans who legitimately want something good for this country. I don't quite get the connection between the Republican and philosophy in that, but that's where my bias is. But I know there's plenty who would be willing, who voted for Biden, for instance,
Biden.
And whose entire priority is the good of this country. But for the most part, it was very well proven that an incredibly powerful vocal base is of this mindset. And any of the Congress people and senators who dared to not try to overturn the election, got their ire, all of these people who dared to accept the reality of the outcome were raked over the coals for it. And so I think it's a fear-based system, and it's absolutely a fear-based system, but their strategy is we cannot ever give an inch to the Democrats because we will be seen as weak to our voters. And I think they are correct, and it's pathetic and wrong. But I think that's absolutely why they're doing it. That's why they're not going to water anything down, because they know it's dangerous to them.
The reason that I asked that specifically, I will go to you, Kevin, is we all expect Republicans to win at least one House of Congress in 2022. And it would seem beneficial to them to try to run out the clock by being like, maybe you can get us, and then voting against it anyway. Although I agree with everything Jett just said.
Well, I agree with everything Jett just said, because in actual practice, there have been Republicans who have proposed things that are very similar to what Democrats proposed. The ACA, Mitch McConnell had that in his back pocket coming into 2012 or 2012, and that made him look weak. Am I wrong on that, or am I right? Like, he had a plan that was very similar to Barack Obama's plan.
Well, the ACA was initially based off of a lot of Republican plans.
Like Mitt Romney's in Massachusetts.
Romney.
It was very similar to what Romney passed.
Yeah. And so then just because a Democratic president got it done, they had to oppose it. And it's just like that is their platform, is just whatever the Democrats want, we're against it. And it's so funny going back to what Dave was saying about them projecting everything on liberals and Democrats. Every time they say something is divisive, like pointing out a social ill is divisive, pointing out, that racism exists systematically is divisive, but no one points out that the fact that they're just being obstructionists is at the very base just being divisive for divisiveness sake. There's no belief system behind that. It's just whatever you want, I'm against it.
Yeah, they'll vote against their own interests to try and end anything that opposes them. It's just fucking ridiculous.
But like this particular bill is like who doesn't agree that we need strengthening of the infrastructure?
Yeah, it's something that even like Trump was trying to pass. He wanted an infrastructure bill. He like every president, like in recent history. I'm not a presidential expert or scholar, but it seems like everybody tries to like boost infrastructure. Oh, we need better roads and highways and all this shit, and then. Democrats get it done, and then Republicans say it's socialist, and then Republicans try to get it done, and then it doesn't happen, and they just cut taxes for the wealthy instead. It just doesn't make any sense.
And then call it a day.
Yeah.
Taxes.
So taxes. Thank you. I finally get to drink. But what drives me crazy, piggybacking off what Jett said, is that instead of trying to appeal to their base or to appeal to more people, they're going to change the voting laws so that the people who oppose them can't vote. It's just like they have no other plan but just to obstruct further. It drives me absolutely insane. Also, these billionaires, the tax cuts, or that the wealth tax and the corporate tax. That was what, 4 drinks?
It's three drinks.
Oh, I switched over to White Claw because I ran out of. Well, yeah, I don't want to drink another IPA, and that's it. So, But anyways, so these programs heavily benefit the majority of Republicans because they are not very rich or smart, and so. They will vote against their own interests just because their Republican leaders are telling them not to like this because it's socialist. But they need these programs for their families, and they don't. They just, this is a socialist plan, socialism bad, government bad. I can't agree with this, and so
that's another thing that bothers me about it. It's this bill. It's the American Rescue Plan. Is every time they say the same thing. This is a progressive wish list. It doesn't really have to do, most of these things don't even have to do with infrastructure. Mm-hmm. It's a Trojan horse for socialism. Everything they're going to say, they say that to everything.
It's because they're, the Republican leaders, they are backed by fucking dark money. They're backed by these programs, these wealthy billionaires, these corporate interests that funnel all this money into these campaigns, and they're telling these Republican leaders to not to not back away, to not vote for shit. And it's like, tell your base not to vote for this. They're stupid. They're going to believe it, so that we, the corporate billionaires, and the different billionaires and all the corporate greed out there, can continue to win, to basically rule society. And it's appalling. It pisses me off. So
pisses me off too. So let's move on to our next segment.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, raspberry. That is tasty.
President Biden.
Biden
did his first press conference with the White House press corps a week ago after reporters complained on Twitter and cable news for days about the fact that he hadn't done one yet. The reporters there didn't ask him a single question about COVID, which is still the number one issue voters care about in polls. They instead asked him questions about why he hasn't started a re-election campaign yet. Would Kamala Harris be his running mate again? Does he think he'll run against Trump again? Later, some of them would complain about the fact that Biden had a preset list of reporters he would call on, had notes prepared for questions beforehand, and didn't call on Fox News reporter Peter Doocy. Kevin, this seemed like a colossal fucking waste of time. Should Biden ever do one of these again?
I'm gonna say yeah, that it seemed like a colossal waste of time, but just the fact that the president communicates to the public should not be a waste of time. Should not be considered a waste of time. I mean, since FDR's fireside chats, we've needed those, communication from our leadership. That isn't just them pumping themselves up in front of us. And
but he has done town halls.
Yeah,
would that be preferable to a press conference, talking directly to voters?
I don't know. A press conference just seems more like business-like. It's in the middle of the day. He's between meetings, and he'll go talk to the press. I think they should happen more frequently, at least weekly, unless he's going to do another fireside chat. I always enjoyed the way the Obama administration used any means at their disposal to communicate to the public. And I also loved how the conservatives hated that, because they were able to grasp that new medium while old people were still trying to figure out how to set the clocks on their VCRs, which we were no longer using at that point in time. But I feel like more communication is better. Even if Biden, I should tell you, drink.
Yummy.
I mean, I was never a big fan of Biden's, even during the primaries. I really sincerely think that in any other country, he'd be a conservative politician. And I voted for him, but just because I could not deal with having such a screwed up government in my country. It was having physical it was having physical reactions within me to wake up in the morning and just be like, what is going on today? What has been ruined? What has been destroyed? What part of the country has been cut off and disenfranchised today? So again, he's from Delaware. Anyone from Delaware is a corporatist. That's why they that's why they register every corporation in Delaware, because it's so friendly to corporations. And I'm from Pennsylvania too, as well as the same thing as Joe. When he does the down home Pennsylvania kind of things, it does make me smile a little, but I also know that it's an act. He's being a politician at that point. But that said, with all the things that are going on, he does need to communicate what he's doing with the pandemic, what he's doing with the economy, what he's doing to fix the crumbling infrastructure of this country. I would have liked it if he mentioned the part of the 101 that just fell into the sea, as part of the infrastructure that's being built, even though I know that's a state, that's more of a state project. But
the 101's always falling into the sea. I don't know.
Every
summer you're just oh, I can't go up to Big Sur because part of it's fell into the sea again. So.
Either the bridge is being fixed or but now it's the whole cliffside that went into the sea.
Wow, that sucks. But
every part of the United States is having that happen to it. From that, for him to mention the lead pipes are being replaced. Honestly, that should have happened 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We found out lead was bad in the early 1900s, and we should have fixed it by the 50s, but we had, 2 world wars to fight. But so then in the 70s, it should have been fixed. In the 80s, it should have been fixed. In the 90s, it should have been fixed when we built the internet. But it wasn't. Yeah. We were too busy, making money hand over fist, dangling carrots in front of people.
Joe, I wasn't a Joe Biden fan, but I was in the same boat. I mean, I was going to vote whatever Democrat was in office because I despised Trump back when he was, on Home Alone 2. But I
really, you hated him.
Probably
specifically because of that.
Yes.
I hated him back then because of his Stern appearances. Like you would listen to him on Stern and just know, oh, the reason Howard Stern has him on is because he's a horrible human being.
Yeah,
right.
He fits into that category of Howard Stern guests that are pieces of shit.
Yeah,
That's the point.
I was I'm really surprised about like this Biden presidency because he is much more progressive than what I was thinking. He's actually listening to his party, and how is the majority of the Democratic Party is actually quite progressive right now. And I always thought of him, like you were saying, Kevin, as more of a Republican. And I've said this on the show many times before. Like any other point in time, he would have been, very leaning right. But anyways, he's got this tax plan is very progressive at least my view. It's no Green New Deal, but just the wealth tax. It's like a 20% corporate wealth tax. And that's, here we go. That's two of them right there.
Well, wealth tax is something different. That's when you're actually taxed on your total wealth rather than your income.
Got it. But what's the tax that's for this plan? Is it the corporate tax or is it a wealth tax?
Corporate tax. It was 35% under Obama, and I think Trump slashed it to 21, and now Biden wants to bring it to 28, which of course is socialism.
Yeah, bringing tax rates back to what they were before Reagan was in office is clearly pure socialism. We are USSR at that point. But Reaganism, trickle down economics, that was the key to our future that never worked. Yeah, I had another point that I was going to talk about, but I can't remember. So,
you mentioned Biden moving to the left on some things this week. I was thinking about putting this in the outline, but I didn't know what question to ask for it. He announced that he is having his education secretary look into canceling $50,000 in student debt.
That's right.
For borrower.
I agree with that.
He wants to report on that in a few weeks.
My other point I was gonna say to Kevin was that he has his his press secretary. She talks to the media quite a bit. Every day, and she does a fantastic job of handling the reporters and whatnot. And I do agree with you. And Bernie, he had his Vermont. Was it New Hampshire? I always get those mixed up. Anyways,
Vermont and New Hampshire,
they're the same state, right? It's just Vermont.
They've got states between them.
Yeah, I know. But anyways. So he would chat. He would talk to his constituents every month or every week or something like that. And it is important, but you got to remember Biden's got a bad stutter that he hides very well, and he's been dealing with it for a long time.
Well.
So public speaking's not his forte. And I was thinking about my job and the job of the presidency. I am super busy during the day. And if someone were to come into my office and be like, I need you to talk to a bunch of these reporters who are just basically going to waste your time, I'd be like, I got so much shit to do. He has the most important job in the world. He is the leader of the free world. Like, we're so used to having a reality star. Well, I'm not used. I despised it, but these Republicans and these Republican reporters are so interested in just getting sound bites and getting viewers that they just want the presidency to be a reality TV show. And so they are not. Biden's not doing that for him anymore. Trump was doing it, so they wanted to basically. They want him to be Trump. And he's like, I have a fucking job to do as the president. Let me do my fucking job. And they can't agree with that. So I do think that press conference was a waste of time, that he literally had some very important shit to talk about that nobody asked him about. And it was just about a bunch of bullshit. There were reality TV show topics that they wanted him to talk about. It was like, whenever you watch a goddamn ESPN interview with a sports star, like, they never want to talk about the game. They just want to talk about some bullshit gossip that's going on in that sports star's life, and you're just like, fuck, dude, I want to hear about what happened in the game there. Shut the fuck up, you fucking sports analyst. But Russell Wilson's not going to get traded, all right? Drop it, you dickhead.
Yeah, please. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Well, the thing is, I think the reason why the reporters did not ask about the pandemic is twofold. Is one, I don't think the conservative reporters asked about the pandemic because this administration is handling it as well as you can possibly do damage control after the last administration. Yep. And secondly, the other reporters, I'm assuming because they didn't have any interest in it, that they really feel like there's nothing to ask because it's being handled as well as you can. So like, cause we were talking about this before we started casting, but I'm particularly paranoid about this pandemic and the response and the future of what's going to happen with these variants and what it's going to mean for us living every day, you know. But I also believe that this administration is doing as well as they possibly can in the situation they're in. So I'm not going to ask questions. I'm going to wait for them to give me information, which what's her name? Jennifer Psaki?
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to wait for her press sessions every day, you know, press conferences every day.
Do you watch them?
Not every day, but when I happen to be sitting down,
them, so
she's much better than any of the previous 4 or 5 press secretaries.
Yeah.
Like she's not particularly combative. She tries to give information. She does deflect a bit when she has to get more information or whatever. But that's what a press secretary does. The press secretary doesn't lie,
right?
Doesn't pretend that things are non-issues when they obviously are. If something like I think she does fine as a press secretary.
Yeah, I personally haven't watched any, but I've read reports about it, and it's like she doesn't, if she doesn't know something, she'll say, I don't know.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah, and that's what she should do instead of just pull some shit out of her ass and make
I
stuff
can't
up.
I can't assume it's all honest because reality doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
But she does it does seem more honest than we've had from the last 4 years. It's especially from the fact that there's a willingness to say I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a huge one that I'm perfectly happy for.
I will say this: when she does deflect, I do assume she's deflecting for a reason, not just because, I mean, if she says she doesn't know, she doesn't know, but, we're going to loop around or I'll have to ask someone and get back to you. I assume that there's something that she's not well prepared to address yet.
Or she's just not allowed to talk about it.
But
there's a lot of top secret stuff and just stuff that government's
and it's fantastic to be able to say, I am not well informed enough about this subject.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. That's absolutely what anybody who's not informed about something
That's a sign
should
of
say.
weakness. You can't have anything that exposes your weaknesses. You can't say no. You got to make something up. You got to apply to your base.
Speaking of making something up, we're going to do some rants now.
All right.
Yeah. So, every week on this show, we do a segment called Who Should Fuck Off, where we rant about someone who's an asshole. So, Dave, why don't you go first?
Oh, okay, because my cough there that I muted. I think Lindsey Graham should fuck off. His comment that he made about owning an AR-15, let me just read this real quick. Let's see if I can find it. It says here, if there's a natural disaster in South Carolina where the cops can't protect my neighborhood, my house will be the last one that the gang will come to because I can defend myself with my AR-15. Fuck that guy. Can you imagine Lindsey Graham with an AR-15? There's absolutely no way.
The kickback would shatter his bones.
Yeah, it would break his fucking shoulder. And like, it's just ridiculous. I had a lengthy conversation with one of my coworkers about this. I mean, he's a good guy. He's a libertarian. He was in the Marines, but he's very pro-gun. And I was like, I have yet to hear one good reason why anybody has the right to own an AR-15 or any type of semi-automatic assault rifle. Like, there's no good reason for it. These are weapons that were designed for the military, for militaries to kill a lot of people in a short amount of time. There's no reason why your average U.S. citizen should have this gun. There's absolutely no reason. Like, they didn't make this gun so that, oh, well, you know, people need to target shoot and shoot a bunch of cans off a fucking post and see how many, you know, bales of hay they can blow up in under 30 seconds. Like, its only purpose is to kill a lot of people in a very short amount of time. That's not hunting. That's not self-protection. There's no reason for this. So if you are someone who thinks that you need to form a militia to defend yourself from the government in case the government goes rogue and you have to defend yourself, I don't care how many of your podunk hillbillies that you get with AR-15s, you're not going to defend yourself from this U.S. military. It is the biggest, most powerful, most well-equipped military in the entire planet. You're not going to win. That's the same. That's it. There's no reason for this. If you need to defend yourself, it's going to be a handgun or a shotgun. I have nothing against people who want to defend themselves with a sidearm or a shotgun next to your bed. If you're in an apartment, highly recommend using a shotgun because the bullets, it's just shot. It won't go through walls as easily, if any, and it can defend you very well. You're not going to hunt with an AR-15 because all the meat will be bad. No one's given me a good reason why anybody should own it. And I asked my coworker this: why do you have the right to own an AR-15? And he was like, well, it's just my right under the Constitution. And it's like, the Constitution was written, you know, back in the 1800s, like it was at 1796 or 1805. I can't remember when the Constitutional Convention was, but I mean, that wasn't in the original Constitution. That was after the whole thing was written, they had to, put the Bill of Rights in there so that states would ratify it. But they had muskets, and those things took a minute to fucking load. And that was their whole firepower. That was their whole right to bear arms right there. Not these guns with these high-capacity clips that could kill 30 people in under a minute. I highly feel that if the founding fathers saw these types of weapons, they'd be like, no, we shouldn't have Americans owning this stuff. I mean, it's the same reason why we can't own rocket-propelled grenades or rocket launchers or C4. These are weapons of destruction that kill a lot of people. So owning an AR-15 or any type of semi-automatic weapon should not be legal. And it's not, fuck, man. One goddamn person puts a bomb in their shoe, and now we all have to take our fucking shoes off when we go to the fucking airport so that they can x-ray our gun or our fucking shoes. Mass shootings happen every single week here in the U.S. That's I mean, there was more before the pandemic hit. There were more mass shootings in the U.S. than there were days in the year. Like, it was getting to that point where it was like 1.05 or 1.1 mass shootings a day. And so, but yet we don't do anything because, the NRA, Republicans, the Second Amendment, we can't do anything. We can't change anything. Meanwhile, New Zealand, they had one really bad mass shooting. The prime minister signed a bill like the next week outlawing all assault weapons. I don't know. Have they had any mass shootings? I haven't heard any in the news. No. Meanwhile, we're fucking having them every fucking week now that things have opened up again. It's like, and it sucks that when bad things happen, we have to change laws, and we can't change laws before the bad things happen. But here in the U.S., bad things happen, and we still can't change the laws because people are so fucking gun hungry. Like, why should your right to own a toy be more important than the 10 to 12 to 20 people die every week? Why are their lives less important than your right to own a toy? If you wanted a fucking toy, go buy a ATV, go buy a PS5. That's not going to kill anybody. 10 people die in a week because one guy wanted to fucking own a gun, and you can go out to a Walmart and fucking get a gun and shoot up a fucking mall or massage parlor in under a couple minutes and kill all these people. That right that you think you have to own that toy does not equate a higher my right to live. Somebody else's right to live. That's not better than somebody's right to live. That's what I'm saying about that. So taxes, Biden.
Taxes, Biden. Jett, who should fuck off?
I'll use him as a catch-all. Hold on, let me get this done. But I'll go for Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, and all of the people in the same category who have been like, cool, vaccines are happening. Let's just open back up as though everything's fine now, instead of waiting for things to actually be fine. Because the fact that the vaccine availability is increasing doesn't mean it's here. It doesn't mean the people are vaccinated. Even the people who are half vaccinated, which I think is around a third of the country.
I'm half vaccinated.
That's a very small percentage still. Once we get to full vaccination, there's still a period of time before it's fully there. And of course, again, a huge number of people are going to refuse to get vaccinated at all. A huge number of people still don't qualify. And as at each stage of this won't, I mean, our next levels of this are still not going to cover kids. And there's been the latest findings are that the vaccines are 100% effective on kids, teenagers, 12 to 18 or whatever the bracket was. So there's going to be a huge number of people who could be vaccinated who will not be for a very long time. We're not there yet. And this is absolutely putting the cart before the horse. This is I picture there's all these great, hilarious fail videos online of the bicycle racer coming up on the finish line. The ribbon is right there, and they start cheering and getting all excited that they're about to win, and somebody passes them and wins. And like that's exactly where we are with this. Is all of these people are excitedly going, see, we're winning. It's like, no, we can see the finish line. That's not the same thing.
And Canada wins. They come out of nowhere in Canada.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of the rest of the world is not doing well either, which is sad for the world. It's also sad because, of course, we've done so poorly. It's like, it's crazy to look at other countries going, wow, somehow they're doing worse than us suddenly in certain ways. But yeah, anybody who at this point is excitedly saying, great, we can go back to normal, is an idiot, an asshole, and is going to just ruin us all. And I can't deal with it. So Greg Abbott and everybody else did the same thing. What was that?
What about owning the libs?
Yep.
How are they going to do that if they don't open everything up and kill a bunch of people?
Yeah, no, that's fair. They can't do that yet, and that's a problem.
It's like I heard the headline of Mitch McConnell's encouraging Republican males to get vaccinated, and it's like, well, what about the females? But then like, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, they're even within their own party, they're sexist. But it was something like 90% or 60%, I don't know, some ridiculous number that of Republican males are not getting vaccinated. Just I mean, really? Like, over 500,000 people dead, and you're like, you still think it's a hoax and it's not gonna do anything? I don't know. I'm just mind-boggling.
Kevin, you should fuck off.
Someone less famous, but also sort of an avatar for an entire community. The guy who got fired from SNL a few years ago for using a derogatory term for Asian people on his podcast. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to get any fucking fame. Sorry, but back then I got into an argument with another comic who was like, free speech is free speech, and I stood fast with like, free speech comes with responsibility. And now what we're seeing is those seeds that were planted years ago by him saying, we found we can make fun of Chinese people. Those seeds are sprouting. Those seeds are coming to fruit. Now my older relatives are in danger. My wife is in danger when she goes to work. When you start to dehumanize someone, and even if you think it's a joke, even if you think that, you know, your First Amendment right is sacrosanct, you dehumanize someone, and that makes it easier for the person who will commit violence to commit violence. And then all the things that have happened between then and now with, painting a target on Asian Americans because of the virus, that I have to say, again, I put full blame on Bolton and Trump for this virus, because we would have handled it like H1N1, like Zika, like Ebola. We would have handled it like every other outbreak that ever happened if they didn't cut back on the CDC for austerity.
Exactly.
I don't think enough people are saying that out loud. It's their fault. It's their fault. Say it over and over again.
It's Trump's fault.
We would have been done with this by summer if it was not for Trump and Bolton. Okay. Now,
call it the Trump virus, please, because he's fucking responsible.
Bolton just as much, and he's making money off of a book that he's selling because he's trying to throw Trump under the bus, but it's just as much his fault. It's just as much his fault. Now, back to the social aspect of this, calling something the Chinese virus, or just painting a target on people who have built this country just as much as any other group of people. Chinese Americans have been here. They built the railroads that gave us the infrastructure to become a leader in the world. Filipino Americans have been here since before this was a country. They were in Louisiana in the 1600s. For people in this country, and it's also because for my entire life, even though I was born here in this country, I know no other life than to be an American. I grew up around Philadelphia. I used to walk the birthplace of this country in my spare time when I was alone as a teenager. For anyone to try to make me feel like this is not my country, they can fuck right off.
Yeah.
This is as much my country as anyone else who isn't a native of this country. The people who belong to this land have been mistreated so hard that, like, I can't even figure out an acceptable remedy for that situation. So to go the other way and just be like, well, can we get along with everyone who's here, requires everyone who's here to actually acknowledge the situation we're in. And it's that 95% of the people here didn't originate here, and we're just here together. So that large group of people that I just described can fuck right off.
Wow. That was powerful, man. That was good shit. Brought me to tears almost.
It's hard to follow that.
Yeah. What are you going to say to that, Mark?
Sorry.
No, that was great.
I'm going to tell Eric Nelson, Derek Chauvin's attorney,
yes,
to fuck off. During the trial, I think it was on Tuesday, he was talking to Donald Williams, who had witnessed the murder and called the police on the police. And they played a tape of what Williams said, and he got very animated as the episode was going on and upset. And after they played the tape, Nelson tried to paint Williams as an angry black man. He tried to make him into that trope.
Fucking
and Williams brilliantly caught on to what he was doing. And when Nelson was like, it's fair to say you grew angrier and angrier, Williams said, no, I grew professional and professional. I stayed in my body.
Nice.
You can't paint me out to be angry. It was a really powerful moment, but I can't believe that it in a trial for the man who murdered a black man, which set off a summer of unrest and protests and dialogue about racism, that you would use the trope of an angry black man.
Yeah.
That it's just unconscionable. You were such a piece of shit. Fuck you, Eric Nelson.
Well, he was also trying
so
to.
hard.
He's trying to paint George Floyd as what they were calling like a super black person. Like it was people in that, like African Americans in that area were violent, and so that they had to tackle him because he was automatically gonna hurt. So it was, I don't know, the terminology that they use, I don't even want to repeat, and it's cringeworthy, and it's almost as bad as this fucker. Oh, it's worse than this fucker, and both these fuckers. I fucking hate these guys, and I'm tired of looking at myself. I'm sorry, somebody else talks, so I don't have to look at it. So.
Well, probably a good place to end it.
Right.
Saying fuck you to Tucker Carlson and Matt Gaetz.
Yes,
and,
both these guys are pricks.
and Eric Nelson and everyone who's racist against Asians. So
there you go.
All of you guys can fuck off. Everyone who watches this show can
fuck on.
And
no, fuck on. That's great.
Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, watch us on podcasts, and we'll be here in 2 weeks again. Almost a year that we've been doing this. YouTube Live. Thank you, Caffeine. Thank you so much, Jett and Kevin. Really good shit from both you guys. It's always good to check in. We'll be back to doing shit live, performing live. But have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
Taxes.